usually give them like a 2-minute mark, a 1-minute mark, and then a 30-second. The 30 seconds is usually when the music, like the outro music plays.
Okay.
Do you want any other marks for me, like 5 minutes, 10 minutes, anything like that?
Maybe at a 5-minute mark.
Okay.
Again, you're driving a computer with
So
wheels.
we'll see.
It needs voltage, and it needs 12 volts plus.
You guys on YouTube can tell me how the audio is. I'm messing with stuff here. You get to see all the behind the scenes. I just went live. I don't know if this is gonna work or not, but there's a lot of experimentation going on here, guys. So just bear with me. I'm gonna have people everywhere trying to figure it out.
If it's a 140 amp alternator, it better be able to put out 140
Are you
amp
live streaming or?
Yeah, we're live right now.
Oh wow. Okay. Cool.
Yeah. So, well, I just got it live because I was trying to figure out how to do everything. But I'm gonna need the mic right here.
That you can
And
load the
I don't know if I want this behind me or in front of me, but
what it's putting out. I mean,
we'll keep working on the camera angle, guys.
I mean, the only
I don't know.
you could make an alternator
Or maybe I just move my banner.
the blower on high.
Oh, I don't know if the banner has anywhere to
You
go.
know, that you can simulate a load like that. But you have to load test these things.
Yeah, I'm honestly astonished by the amount of chairs in here for the fact that there are 3 microphones.
The amount of batteries are not cheap.
There are a lot of chairs in here.
Yeah, I'm not sure where they've all come
They'll
from.
go into a place like I seen back east, and they get the cheapest battery they have.
All right, well, we're just gonna stick with the banner for now, and
I'm going, I don't
we'll have to figure it out.
wanted this vehicle called for.
We'll have to figure it all out later.
So sure enough, they'll Google it and find out what you're supposed to have in it, and say, oh, you know, and so the cheapest battery is a misnomer. It's not. They've got different cold cranking amps. Try to start a diesel with a 400.
All these guys are gonna hear the
It's not going to happen.
at the end of the
No.
Jerry Simmons
And,
car show every day, every Saturday. They're gonna learn a lot more about cars.
Might have some fan crossover, right?
That's right. Well, you know, who doesn't like cars, right?
And it shows
I'm on it. Like the amount of knowledge these guys have is honestly like
you can't
incredibly impressive.
Yeah.
Between them, they've got like I think like 70 years of garage experience.
Yeah.
Something like that. It's absolutely nutty. They diagnose things over the phone on a weekly basis.
Yeah. Well, a lot of it's just whatever you're used to doing. You do it long enough. I mean, whatever you do enough, you learn.
Yep.
And of course we
See
shut
if
it
I
off
can-
when we had the tire replaced or fit.
3 minutes to the top of the hour, and then there's a 2-minute ad break before the show starts.
Okay.
But it's still 30 minutes long.
So evidently that zoom at a battery goes, you know, white stuff growing on top. Green growing on the inside.
I had asked if we can get a wire in here, but it's a little late for that. But if
Skin it back, just take a razor or something and open it up down about an inch.
what's that fancy word? Wi-Fi?
Goes down the cable.
Oh,
I can create my own, but is it? You don't need to say it out loud since we're live streaming on.
it's
Not that anyone's gonna be driving around
Yeah,
here.
it's a. This is the username.
Clean and
that's the
to
password.
get rid of the problem. If you don't, you're gonna have a problem.
Yeah, you'll have a voltage drop.
I can write it down for you too if you need it.
Yeah, I think I can read that far. Is there any capitals in there?
Just the username, but I don't think it should matter. The L and the U are capital,
Well, first thing that's going to happen is, like the little Honda CRV.
but the password is all lowercase.
Oh, okay.
We had all kinds of codes.
2 minutes, guys. You got 2 minutes left. 2 minutes.
You know, we had ABS codes. We had brake lining.
So that plugs right into their audio where they're at.
Yeah, I can, without talking on the air, I can talk back to them over
Uh-huh.
the phone lines. I can do that to any channel too,
That's cool.
as long as it's got an output for me.
I mean, 23 computers and just about every
You've got all the power in the world here.
It feels like it sometimes, man.
for low voltage.
That's good.
Oh,
Right.
yeah, I've been
Creates all kinds of
on
problems.
this board for 2
You know,
years
you
now.
have
and
to have a good battery.
I hope I at least have like a working
have
knowledge
gotta
of
know
it.
what-
Yeah, that's good.
Exactly. And a lot
see
of these
if I
cars,
can-
if you get enough corrosion into the battery cable,
Should be able to handle
Watch
anything
out.
that even
I mean,
might
if
go
you
wrong.
can't clean it up,
Not that anything
and
would.
they're already
At
so
least that's the
short.
hope,
It isn't
right?
like back in the day when you had
Well,
a
you
battery
know.
cable that was about 6 inches too long. where
We
you
just
could
roll
cut
with
off
it.
a couple inches, put a new
I love
cable
that
on
shirt,
top.
by the way.
Don't worry,
Yeah, one of my
new
coworkers
cars-
got me this shirt. The funny thing is I've never seen Game of Thrones, so
I've never watched the show either. I'm just.
but
I'm
as soon
reading
as I
books.
saw the typeset, I knew what it was.
Yeah.
There's contrary beliefs.
1 minute, guys. 1 minute. 1 minute left.
You know, you're going to have to replace that cable. Well, guess what? That cable's part of the harness.
Right.
And it can have all kinds of other wires intertwined with it.
And along comes with that is the expense. $300 for battery cable, you got it.
30 seconds, guys. 30 seconds. 30 seconds.
That's real. And these temporary ends that you buy, that you take a little 7/16 wrench and tighten up the little plate on the top that squishes the bare wire, they are designed for temporary use only. You need to have that.
20 seconds. 20 seconds.
The later model of the car, the more you've got to make sure you have it done. Okay, Brian,
Well, we're running out of time here on the Simmons Car
10
Show.
seconds. 10 seconds.
For coming back and helping me out here today, Jerry. And to all you listeners out there, we'll see you next week. Thanks for listening.
You guys are all clear. Yes, sir. We'll talk to you guys next week.
On Monday's edition of the Jeff Dean Show, reactions from the weekend of Wildcat football camp. What did we learn about the quarterback position? And
Those aren't the ads I scheduled. All right.
We'll recap the final weekend of Olympic action in Tokyo, plus
As long as they're both going, huh?
rumors, as well as a recap of the Hall of Fame induction. Join me, Jeff Dean, Monday at 7 a.m. for the Jeff Dean Show.
Who do you think you're talking to? You're listening to 1490 AM, 1049 FM, ESPN Tucson. To get all the latest updates about events, games, and ESPN Tucson alerts, join the local ESPN Tucson club by texting the word ESPN Tucson to 68683. Again, to join, text the word ESPN Tucson to 68683.
Sometimes I would rather just text than talk.
Message and data rates may apply.
We were talking about it. One of the most famous lines in that is, "I once got busy in a Burger King bathroom." When that song
1
was
minute.
at peak popularity, how many people attempted to get busy in a Burger King bathroom? I'm just curious, million, any of our listeners. 719-1490.
Okay, YouTube, we got 1 minute over here.
Let us know if you got busy in a Burger King bathroom. And if so, let us know which one. 719-1490. I think it was the first time I put my head in that.
They can't hear the audio that's... Well, they can hear anything that's...
As soon as the mics come on, it'll kill the speakers in here.
Okay.
But
then
I'll kill the mic for
the
anything we
for
need
that
to
middle promo?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll make sure they can hear it.
Okay.
30 seconds.
Thanks for listening to 104.9 FM, 1490 AM, ESPN Tucson. We want to make sure you can listen to us on your Amazon Echo device with Alexa. Ask and you shall receive. Download the Alexa app, open it up, search for ESPN Tucson. Once you find us, click on us, then click Enable. Your Amazon Echo device is now ready to use. When you want to listen to us, just say Alexa, play ESPN Tucson. Get the step-by-step details on
10 seconds.
Alexa at ESPNTucson.com.
The views and opinions on this show do not necessarily reflect the views of ESPN Tucson 1490 and 1049 FM or the Arizona Lotus Corporation.
Welcome to the ThCoinGeek Radio Show, where we talk about money, life, and history. Here's your host, Ben the Coin Geek.
Hey, Tucson. Welcome to the ThCoinGeek Radio Show and podcast, where we talk about life, money, and history. And thanks for everyone who's joining us live on YouTube also, streaming YouTube/TheCoinGeek. Glad you could join us today for a show that is going to be something a little bit unique in the Tucson area, and hopefully something that'll take off around the world. We'll try to broadcast it anywhere that people can pick up radio signals and or podcasts. And of course, there's YouTube. This show is brought to you by Old Pueblo Coin. Old Pueblo Coin, where we have a fun, fast, friendly, and free evaluation process so that you can find out what your coins, currency, gold, silver, and jewelry is worth. If you're ever in the Tucson area, some of you guys have already stopped by who watch us on YouTube. If you're a coin collector, it's obviously the place to be. For those of you who are just happen to be in the Tucson area and are listening, and you're wondering what is he talking about, at the Northwest Corner Speedway in Columbus, you can find us there, and we offer free appraisals on your coins, currency, your gold, your silver items, your jewelry. So if you've inherited some stuff or just have some old stuff that's been sitting around and you're curious about what it might be worth, stop on in at any time, Monday through Saturday. Also, though, you can reach us at 520-881-7200. And for those of you who are listening to this show, either on YouTube or locally, you can call in 520-719-1490. That's 520-719-1490. And our lovely phone screener will talk to you, and maybe we'll take some phone calls, or as I like to call them, coin calls, just a little bit later on down the road. But first, we're going to start at the beginning, which is something that I had a lot of people ask me about. Where are you going to start with this? And it's going to be at the beginning. So I had to make sure that I had a list of things that I was going to do today, and we're going to start at the beginning where we start talking. But the beginning of the show here, really for a show about coins and coin collecting, you're probably just wondering, well, what's the beginning? You're talking about the beginning of coins? Are you talking about the beginning of collecting? Like, who was the first coin collector? Any of you have input on who the first coin collector was, by the way, drop me a note there on YouTube, because I'm doing some research on that right now to try to figure that answer out. But I'm going a little bit farther back than that. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. Okay, maybe that's too far back. Maybe we won't go quite that far back. But really, though, we want to go back to the first question, which is, what is money? And for most of us who collect coins and currency, we just kind of take it for granted what money is or what money would be. But today, more than ever, you really got to think about that question about what is money, because we've gone to this strange world where all of a sudden, when I talk to anyone who is probably younger than me, and I say, what's in your wallet? Do you have money in your wallet? And half of them won't have any money in their wallet. They won't have any dollar bills. They don't have any coins on them. They have a card. A lot of them now, they don't even use cards. Everything's on their phone. It's all digital. So what is money? What's the stuff that we get so excited about as collectors that we get wrapped up in the history and the uniqueness? Well, I think when you look at money, you have to look back at time and say, what is something that people wanted to have? And the common denominator when most people talk about money is they talk about something that is a medium of exchange. That's something you hear people all the time. Well, someone else was willing to take it. And you'll talk about something that also sometimes just a counter for units. Like it's almost like a debt mechanism. Like, here I've got 5 of these, and these 5 things are going to represent a value of something else. So it can represent a value for something else. So you got to go way back in history, though, because the weird thing is, when you look back in history, things that are considered currency or money are things like seashells and feathers and human skulls. I mean, that's a little bit strange, right? But go to certain island countries in the Pacific, and whoever had the most human skulls was the richest man on the island. You had flint stones, not like Fred Flintstone, but like flint stones that were carved up, and you saw those especially in the Plains Indians in the upper Midwest. Whoever had the most of those was the wealthiest man in the nation. So, but why do things have value? And for a lot of us, we look at gold and silver, and coin collectors. People in our realm are notorious for looking at gold and silver as being very valuable. And we say, well, it has intrinsic value. Well, the funny thing is, it has intrinsic value today technically because it's actually used in industry. There's a use for it. Yeah. So we think of money sometimes in the realm of just keeping track of who's got the most money, who's got the most wealth. But why was gold and silver considered valuable? Why were feathers and seashells? The strange thing is, a lot of that stuff was actually just used as adornment. It was not actually useful. So one of the things that we think about a lot of times with money is we think of barter. So we think of, people traded chickens and hens, and you can tell I'm a agriculture guy, right? I just said we traded chickens and hens as opposed to like actually using different species. So, but maybe the guy who's doing the corn is trading with the guy who's doing the doing the meat products, right? You get the idea. So, but if you think about it, back in Egyptian times and previous, about the times when we're looking at some of the earliest currency, the earliest coins, which is what we care about coins a lot, right? On in this realm. But about that time, gold and silver didn't really have an industrial use. It really was just an adornment. There was not much difference between feathers, seashells, and gold and silver. They all had a similar usage in that they were mostly just used for adornment, and yet people coveted them and wanted them, and they ended up showing a value for something else. So you have a lot of historical records of when a peace treaty was made between nations, there was so many talents of silver or gold, or of course when there's a big marriage or something like that. We have a lot of records of gold and silver being traded. So, of course, we today think of gold and silver as having an intrinsic value. But over the years, mostly you had almost anything that was tradable or barter worthy was considered money. A lot of places didn't really have coins, and they didn't really have currency. They didn't have gold. They didn't have silver. But there's entire areas of the world that were known as where they became known for their product or their goods. So you think about terms like the Silk Road. You actually had people that they traded silk. Silk was in such high demand. The textile industry. You think about trading spices. The spice trade was huge, and that was money. That was currency. That was what people dealt with. They used the spices. They used textiles. Anything that they didn't make, they had to go somewhere else to get something else. And I think that's one of the things that that's interesting to think about today, because of course today we don't have money that's really backed by anything but good faith. But money can be anything that people believe in and people have faith in. But one of the things that's really interesting about the early money, the things that really traded as money, is that there was a usage and there was a perceived value, but there was also this limited nature to the product, right? So you had limited natures. You had things that you had to go really far to get. Some of these things, there's actually a small island where they had currency called Yap. It was actually these huge stones that were carved. Well, part of it was they were considered rare on the island because you had to go 250 miles across the ocean to get it and to get it back, which is interesting because you or I would look at it. We just look at a big stone that's been carved, and going back to the Flintstones, right? You think of the Flintstones when you look at these things. Some of them are 2 feet, some of them are 6 feet, and I couldn't imagine putting a 6-foot boulder on a boat and going across the open ocean. But the limited nature of most of these products is what made them so valuable to other people. And it also helped control certain prices and inflation, because all of a sudden, if you have a food service, if you have a crop and you have a bad industry, a bad year, the same thing that happens on our grocery stores, right? If all the oranges freeze in Florida, all of a sudden you've got prices increasing on that. So with the original things that were bartered and traded that really were considered money by most people because you were trading one good for another, a lot of them had that limited resource, that limited nature to them. So the question today is, as we look at our current currency, it's not really backed by anything but good faith. And then you look at cryptocurrency and you just start to wonder, well, what is this stuff? Is this really money? And so for most people, I'm kind of feel like I'm in the middle on a lot of things, because I've got a lot of people that are older than me that look at cryptocurrency as, you guys are just playing with computer screens. And then I got a lot of people that are younger than me. They're like, gold and silver, it's not useful. What are you going to do with that, right? Why does gold or silver have value other than it's just perceived nature? So, but that's the same with both of them, though, is they have a perceived nature. My concerns, of course, with both the Federal Reserve note and also crypto is that I think you can just produce more. There's not a limited nature to it, right? So when the guys argue for like a gold standard or having gold and silver, one of the things they're arguing for is, well, there's a limited nature to that. And I think that's one of the things that really makes anything that we enjoy as a collectible, but then also as money and as currency, it's always the type of thing that's made things really intriguing, having that limited nature. And so, which, by the way, the guys who do crypto, just so you know, that's what they argue for. They actually say, well, you've got a limited nature to crypto because of the way that the technology works. You can only get so much of it. Of course, my question to them is that, well, you can actually go ahead and create more cryptos. So it seems like it's somewhat unlimited to me in that nature. So we went in the Wayback Machine to look and see what type of currencies we have, what is money, and where it all begins. So I'm going to come back around to you guys also for any of you who are in the area and have questions about coins and coins or money, you can always call 520-719-1490. That's 520-719-1490, and we'll take any calls that you might have about coins or coin collecting. And we can actually also take a minute to look and see what people are chatting about once in a while on YouTube. If you don't know, you can also find us on YouTube, on the YouTube/TheCoinGeek, and go ahead and watch the show live there, so you can also leave comments on that area. So I want to thank again Old Pueblo Coin for sponsoring the program, and we're going to go ahead and take a look and see who dropped in this week at Old Pueblo Coin. Hey guys, welcome into Old Pueblo Coin. Oh yeah, hey, thanks for having us. You mean thanks for having moi? What do you guys like to collect? Oh yeah, hey, waka waka waka. I love walking Liberty Halves too. Me, 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 me. Oh yeah, we've got those as well. Yerny birdie, yerny, yerny, yerk. Okay, well then we'll see you next week. Not if we can help it. Coming to Old Pueblo Coin, you'll never know who you run into next. All right, well thanks for having visitors this last week, and we've got a lot of visitors from around the country that come in and see us at Old Pueblo Coin. Thanks for coming in. I also have not just some famous guests, but of course Robert, Larry. We had a couple guys come in from out of town that I really appreciated spending the time. Mark coming on in, spending the time and talking with us and talking coins. So back to the subject at hand, which is going to be things that predate us and that are money. And getting into the topic one more time of money, and then we'll talk more about the coins and coin market in particular. If you haven't ever engaged in the idea of older currencies, things that are not traditional currencies, there are some very good books about odd and curious money, and there's older ones. There's more modern ones that the ANA had put, the Whitman had put out, just called Curious Currency. And you learn really quick if you go through there that basically anything can be money, and that anything is money. Everything from old stone axe heads, and one of the things that I did want to mention when you get into the idea of money and what it is and what's worth something and what's valuable and just having the faith of it. There's also just the necessity angle. One last thing that I want to talk about in this, which is if you're ever in a natural disaster, you find out really fast what is necessary in life and what's valuable, right? So as collectors, we put a lot of emphasis on certain markets, things that are really popular, and but of course, as some of my friends are fond of telling me, no one can eat coins, no one needs coins to live, and there's some truth to that. So for those of you who haven't really thought about what's necessary in life, just think about natural disasters and what would be important to have there. So, as much as I like gold and silver and coins, those aren't the things that necessarily, if you're in a Hurricane Katrina kind of situation, I think usually it ends up being the necessities are really the necessities, right? Your food, your water, things of that nature. So, all right, guys, let's go ahead and I think, you guys are all going to have to forgive me for this because I'm used to talking to the TV or talking to my phone and not talking to the radio. So I'm used to reading things off of a script over here. And in the meantime, I've got a whole new setup over here. So for those of you who are local and you're just driving around and you're trying to figure out what's going on this show, you're not the only one who's new to some of it. So, but thankfully, I've got some professionals here. I've got phone screener Mia, and then I've got my producer Andrew over here. We're going to make sure that everything goes okay. Next up, we're just going to talk about the coin market in general, things coming up next week. We've got the American Numismatic Association, the big show in Chicago. That show is huge. It's like all week long. So it opens on a Tuesday and doesn't close till a Saturday. I didn't know they made shows that long, being from a podunk town in Tucson where, if you got up to 2 days, you thought you were really rocking and rolling, right? So I actually will be in Chicago on Thursday and Friday, set up there. So if anyone's going to be in the Chicago area who's listening, you can find me over there at table number 1000. We can just chat it up so I don't use the wrong vernacular here on the radio. We can just chat it up and talk about coins, and that's what we like to do. It's what we do in the coin shop all day long. And of course, for those of you who are already on the YouTube channel regularly, you know that we talk a lot about coins. So, all right. So we're going to take a call on line 1, Richard, and we'll see how this works. Richard, can you hear me? Yes, sir. Well, the good news is, do you want the good news or the bad news? We'll get the good news and the bad news. The good news is you've got a quarter. The bad news is you've got a quarter. So for those of you who don't know, in 1976 they made a circulating commemorative coin, which is they made them for the quarter, the half dollar, and the dollar. They actually didn't make any quarters, half dollars, or dollars dated 1975 because they actually made it the 76 on the, well, this is on the proof sets actually. So if you get those coins from the proof sets, they have some silver in them sometimes, or sometimes they don't. Those might have a little bit of value. But the ones that you get in change with the drummer boy or the different 1776 to 1976, those are, of course, just regular coins. And for those of you on YouTube who are asking about that, which, I'm wondering which of you guys are calling in right now, but that's actually a question I get all the time at the coin shop, all the time. So for some of those of you who you think you want to be a coin dealer and have a coin shop, I'm just telling you, you'll get a lot of questions about things that you'll consider very simple. But honestly, questions like that are questions that we get all the time. And you got to be ready to answer all the time. So, all right. Next up, I also have a segment that I want to do kind of on a regular basis called Coin Stories. And this is something that I just put together. It's going to be a lot of different topics. But today, for today's coin story, I'm actually going in the Wayback Machine in U.S. history to find out at the original founding of what was known as social distancing and mask wearing. If any of you can go back in time far enough, we're going all the way back to the historic year of 2020, and 2020 may mean clear vision, but one thing that taught me that it's not always that clear. And I look back at 2020, it still leads me to more questions than answers. And one of the things that 2020 brought us was this supply chain problems. And the supply chain problems were all over the place, right? It was a little bit of everything. But for some of us, we noticed that there was a coin shortage. And actually, just the other day, I went by a fast foods chain, and they still have a coin shortage sign up that says, please use exact change. And actually, at the bank the other day, they had a sign up that said, not all coins may be available, which I found was really interesting. So, for the modern U.S. coin shortage, it had a lot to do with many businesses that are still using coins, but the banking distribution system was coming to a shutdown, and then so some of that they're still catching up from. But this is not the first time in U.S. history that there's been a coin shortage, and I'm sure it won't necessarily be the last, of course, unless we just get rid of coins altogether, which it looks like we could. But during the Civil War, there's actually a real failure of circulating coinage. So you actually had a lot of what they called specie, which would be gold or silver or copper, bronze. Because of the Civil War and the coin shortage, actually two different things came out of it. And one was Civil War tokens, but actually what we're going to talk about is that the U.S. produced its first and only ever fractional currency that was circulated amongst the people. So, and that was specifically because of the coin shortage. So you're looking at coins in denominations of 3 cents, 5 cents, 10 cents, 15 cents, 25 cents, and 50 cents. Those first notes were issued in 1862 and 1863, and they were postage notes, which means they actually had pictures of the current postage currency on them. So little stamps was the image and the icons that were on those notes. The 10 cents had, the 5 cents had Thomas Jefferson on them, and the 10 cents had George Washington. So on the 25 cent stamp, you actually 25 cent coin actually had 5 cent stamps, and the 50 cent had 5 of the 10 cent stamps printed right on it. they made 5 different issues for the fractional currency notes, and actually, it was the type of thing that they made so many different issues for them from 1862 to 1876 because there was a lot of counterfeiting. Because as soon as you had new currency out, the counterfeiters were right on top of it. Because if the individuals have never seen these notes before, well, because the individuals have never seen the notes before, then it was easy for counterfeiters to come along and produce stuff that was good enough that it would trick people. So they were constantly changing up the currency. So at the coin shop, we still have people come in with occasionally with fractional currency notes blended in, and people are like, my grandma had this stuff, or great grandma had this stuff. So that tells me that 50 or 75 years after they stopped using these notes, people still kind of had them in their cigar boxes and their old drawers and stuff that we often see coming to the coin shop full of stuff. So most of the fractional currency notes you can pick up for $20 to $50 for average condition notes. There are some that are more popular than others. You do have some that with Abraham Lincoln's always very popular. Of course, the 3-cent note they only made for one issue, and the 15-cent note, and those are really popular just because they're odd denominations. So for people who are looking for odd denominations, those are out there, and a lot of people don't know about that type of issue. There's something else that's really unique about some of those. The treasurer and the secretary actually hand signed some of them. So a lot of those issues, you actually had just the signature printed on them, like our normal currency does today, but they actually had hand signed. So you got the pen bleeding through, the ink bleeding through the paper, which is really neat. And one of my favorite pieces of numismatic history is actually something called a fractional shield, where they actually had a roughly 2 foot by 3 foot piece of paper where it was shaped like a shield, and they had specimen notes of all these different fractional currencies on there. And really impressive. And if you get the old ones, they actually have this cool old wood frame, and then the glass is older, and so the glass has the little bubbles in them. And those usually trade anywhere from probably about $5,000 all the way up to $20,000, depending on what type you have. So if you want something that's a little bit more expensive to decorate the house with, you could look into a fractional currency shield. So the total number of fractional currency produced over the years was over $369 million, and so that's a ton of stuff over the years. But paper money doesn't survive like coins do. Paper money rots pretty easy, and some of you guys who collect paper money, you're very well aware of that and of that situation. So I can't say that there'll never be any coin shortage again, but as far as the collectibles go, I don't know that we're going to see a whole lot of collectible coins come out of 2020. We're just a lot of frustration when you go and the teller doesn't want to give you exact change for something. So I was hoping that in 2021 we wouldn't see quite as much as that coming forward. So guys, let's go ahead. We got a few minutes left. I want to talk about a little bit about the bullion market, because that is something that we cover, and we'll wrap up with that and then talk about next week a little bit. So for those of you who follow the bullion market, gold and silver, most of you know that yesterday, we had a pretty rough day in the market where you saw, 3 and 4%, 2 and 3% drops during the day on gold and silver. And of course, a lot of you who you guys already watch and know what my thoughts are on gold and silver. I consider it to be something that's kind of a nice thing to have on the side, but it's not necessarily the type of thing that I tell people to try to time the market on. But silver dropped back under $25 an ounce. It closed at about $24.40 an ounce. Gold dropped back under $1,800 an ounce, which still to me seems like a lot of money. But who knows, with inflation coming, maybe I will one day look back and be like, man, remember when I could buy gold for $1,800? That was that was a good day. That was a good time. So some of the behind the scenes things on that also in the gold and silver market is just trying to understand how available it is. The gold and silver market right now is pretty tight. It's still difficult to come by a lot of inventory at any given time. If you come into the coin shop, we're still a little sparse on a lot of that stuff. And I know a lot of you guys there who report back to me from YouTube have been telling me that a lot of the material that at your local coin shops, they are also running into the same thing. So I like the feedback from you guys because it helps me understand the overall marketplace. and to know that it's not just me, because when you live in one place, you can get pretty influenced just by the space around you. So, guys, next week here, a couple things that we're going to be talking about. We are going to be talking about the ANA show. So I'm going to be coming back from Chicago, and I'll be good and tired, and we'll be ready to talk about how the ANA went. I'm going to be giving you some feedback on that. And also, I do have a topic, and you guys always, if you guys want to put down some topics, especially in the YouTube chat, you can go ahead and put down some topics in there. And some of the topics in the YouTube chat would be great. So one of the topics that I'm going to do a little monologue on probably next week is why do so many coin dealers suck? And this was a legit question that I've had from a lot of people, and I completely understand it. It's the type of thing where I've dealt with coin dealers, and I've thought the exact same thing that you guys are thinking. So that's going to be the topic. We'll talk about the ANA, the American Numismatic Association, the big show in Chicago, and then that's going to be my topic. I'll come back with some more coin stories, some more market updates. In the meantime, thanks again to Old Pueblo Coin, of course, for sponsoring the program here. And I appreciate all you guys' support out there in YouTube land and radio land. But if you're especially in the southern Arizona area and if you have coins or currency or gold or silver items of any kind, Julian, old silverware, flatware, and you're just curious about what it might be worth, call us at 520-881-7200, 520-881-7200. That's our line down there at Old Pueblo Coin. Set up an appointment to come in, and we can evaluate stuff for you. And also, if you're from anywhere else in the country, we do buy coins, coin collections, especially from all over the country, estates and whatnot, so individual things and large estates. Also, you can go ahead and email us at staff@oldpueblocoin.com. That's staff@oldpueblocoin.com. If you have inquiries about coin that you have and that you're thinking about selling, if you're from around the country. And I want to thank Andrew, the producer, and Mia, the phone screener today, and all you guys out there for listening. Thanks so much for joining. I'm Ben the Coin Geek, and look forward to talk to you next week.
Clear. All clear.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So now everyone here on YouTube is still watching and listening. So we'll see. So that was an experiment for me on my end, guys, and these poor guys here in the radio studio who they're just along for the ride too. So, they didn't know exactly what they were getting into, but I think now it's probably going to be donut time.
Yeah.
And et cetera, et cetera. So.
Good idea.
Sweet. And we switched over. Wow, and it hit perfect. All right.
We got timing halfway down. That was good.
Yeah.
So when I talk on YouTube, I just say whatever for as long as I want or as short as I want. And then you get in here and they have hard breaks on everything. So we're going to keep working on trying to get make sure the timing's right with everything.
That was pretty darn smooth, particularly for first timer.
Well, the guys on YouTube here, they know that I talk a lot. So they're used to hearing me talk a little bit. So in the meantime, I don't know if I can pull up any chats with these guys here.
He's on top of it.
Yeah.
He's just called it.
That's funny. All right, give me a couple minutes with the guys on YouTube here, and then I'm gonna head out. All right, let's see if I can get my live chats working again here, guys. Thank you for joining me. Man, I know my computer kind of froze over here, so I think that absolutely someone's gonna win a bicentennial quarter. I didn't recognize the voice, but a part of me thinks that it was one of you guys. A part of me thinks it was one of you guys. But seriously, thanks so much for joining me. If you guys have any quick questions about Chicago show next week, let me know about that. And is there a local college that offers radio communications? I don't know who offers radio communications. I've always been drawn to radio. So, we'll see how this goes because I'm used to talking to you guys on YouTube. and it's a different format because I have to bear in mind that I'm communicating with guys who just drive around in their pickup truck that are used to listening to. They're just used to listening to the sports radio station. They turn it on, and here's this guy talking about coins, right? So, anyways, thanks, guys. Let me see if I can navigate the. By the way, was the audio? Could you guys hear? I want quick feedback. Could you guys hear? There's a cut-in thing where there's like a little promo, like where where people came in to the coin shop. I'm just curious. Did that come clear on the audio? So, if you guys could just let me know on that. So, all right. All right. So a lot of the stuff we're going to do on the radio show is probably going to be a little bit more angled at things that aren't as visual. I'll have some visual gags for all you guys who are willing to join me on YouTube, which is fun. But for everyone else who is just on the terrestrial line, one of the things that I have to do is keep in mind that that they're just listening on the radio and they're not watching. Okay, so more feedback, and you guys can leave this in the community tab. But for the topic next week, I think one of the things that I'd like to do, and I'll go ahead and put the phone number here locally again on the community tab for YouTube. But for you guys, if you're going to call in next week, I'd appreciate a couple phone calls. I want a few stories about some coin dealer experiences that you've had. Now, I probably only want a few because I know all of you have a story. Each one of you probably has a story. So go ahead and be ready to call in. I'll be posting this stuff, of course, I'll probably throw it on Instagram also, even though I don't do as much on there as I should, but also on YouTube, the community page. So be ready to call into that 520-719-1490 number next Saturday morning. Same bat time, same bat channel. And in the meantime, guys, thanks. I'm hopeful with your support that the show continues to expand and kind of catch on. And we'll see. It's an experiment, and you guys are part of it, and I appreciate that. And thanks for all the suggestions. Yeah, I'll try to remember to bring back some of the coolest things I saw in Chicago, and talk a little bit about the vibe, the feel, the market, because I'd really like to dive into the coin market on some of that stuff, because I know a lot of you guys are really hardcore into just the coin collecting and not necessarily some of the ethereal comments of what is money, but that's something that I find fascinating. So, because we got a world now where people are just putting it up to what do they call it, an NFC, an NTF? It's basically just a picture that someone makes on a computer screen, but then it's proprietary and they sell it. And people are paying hundreds of thousands, even millions of dollars for an image. Of course, that's just like painting, right? But instead of painting, they're actually using it digitally. So, all right, last couple comments, throw them in there, guys. I appreciate it. And then I'm going to end the live stream here in just a minute, and we'll do the same thing next Saturday morning. I'll probably pop on, 10 or 15 minutes before the show starts in here. I'll try to get set up. And for those of you who like the behind-the-scenes stuff, you might be hearing the producer and I talking about stuff because, I've never done this before. So, good thing he has. All right, guys. Thanks for watching. And as always, if you non-fungible digital assets, I thought it was NFC, NFT. I don't know. Me and technology. That's someone else's job. All right. Thanks, guys. I'll see you next week.